there's a book called A History by Lance Parkin,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know how he does it, but it's a comprehensive history of the entire universe from the Big Bang, well, from pre-Big Bang up to like post-end of the universe, based on everything that's ever been said in any episode of Doctor Who, plus novels, audios, comics, spin-offs, like the pseudo-official spin-offs like Bernie Summerfield, Iris Wildtime, Faction Paradox, things like that. So just everything.
How do you even... Like, I mean...
I have it on my coffee table, and I'm worried my coffee table might break because it's massive. It's so big. It's like 780-something pages.
So, wow. I mean, like, I was going to say, like, all right, that's doable for the show, maybe, but to include also all of that extended media,
yeah,
that's crazy. It's crazy.
The edition I have is current up through The Wedding of River Song.
Oh, wow.
And Miracle Day. And all of Sarah Jane Adventures, plus all Doctor Who novels, novellas, Big Finish audios, IDW and Doctor Who magazine comics, plus a ridiculous amount of other things.
That is super impressive. But yeah. So, well, wait, where does... Oh, I guess no. I guess technically Wedding of River Song would happen within the date of the stuff of Lake Silencio, even though it's like all of time and space is happening at once or something.
Yeah. It's just a running footnote at the bottom of every page.
There you go.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
Louis, did you watch Kill the Moon?
I sure did.
And what'd you think?
I thought it was terrific.
Did you?
I did. I was going for like kind of a fake out with like maybe it was terrible.
I thought it was terrific. You should have leaned into it and then swerved.
Yeah, but, you know, I didn't quite get there.
Oh, well, that's fine. Good try.
Yeah. This
is a very controversial episode.
You know, so I don't do a whole lot of perusing the internet before we record, but I did sort of poke around. Well, I mean, and I inadvertently saw stuff on Twitter about people strongly disliking it and also liking it.
Yeah, I have heard people saying it is the single best episode of Doctor Who ever, and I've heard people saying it's the single worst episode of Doctor Who ever. More than one of each.
Oh man, Doctor Who fans are great.
I know, aren't they? Yeah, I honestly don't know how I feel about this episode, and you know, after my first viewing of it, I thought about it for a while and I decided, you know what? Maybe I just don't have to decide whether I like it or not. Maybe I just don't have to decide.
Yeah, you know what? You don't need to be tied down by that binary.
Yeah, so I decided not to decide whether I liked it or not. And so I don't know. Well, it's not that I don't know. It's just that I have made the decision not to classify my feelings about it as primarily positive or primarily negative.
Right, your feelings just are.
Exactly.
You know, they don't need to subscribe to a particular pole of the spectrum.
Yeah, but I thought it was very interesting. It certainly was not a boring episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, by no means.
But it also did have some things that made me think, I'm not sure that's a good idea, Doctor Who writers. But anyhow, what did you enjoy about it?
Well, you know, it's a lot of different things, you know, and So first of all, I really, as dumb as it could, as dumb as you could call it, I really do like the idea, like the plot being that there's this, that the moon is actually just a gigantic egg,
Yeah.
and it always has been. Because I don't like on the one hand, I do always like those plots that are like, this thing you thought you knew is actually something else, and it always has been. I'm a sucker for those kinds of plots. And so I love.
And we
that.
get a lot of them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I mean, the notion that like the dust you see in light is Vashta-Nerada.
right.
Or that like whenever you see something out of the corner of your eye in a mirror, it's always sister of mine from the family of blood.
That's right.
So all that stuff, you always they do a lot of that in New Who. Yeah, that part of it, I know some people object strongly to that. I am not in that class of people. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is that I liked how they were, because I feel like that's kind of a thing that really good speculative. I'm talking about, for some reason, speculative fiction. I don't know. I also don't know if there's a difference between speculative fiction and science fiction, but I'm pretending like there's not.
There isn't really. They're just two different ways of talking about the same thing, and you might be wise in steering away from the word science here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But no, I do like this sort of nature of like taking a thing and doing something different to it, like, and I guess I'm speaking really broadly, but like, adding mass to the moon. Like, I like the concept of saying, all right, let's add mass to the moon. What are the real world consequences of that? And like, what could happen as a result of that? And I like that they're talking about like, well, the tides are, so high they're, drowning cities or whatever. And it's causing all sorts of havoc. The satellites are all down, whatever. And I like that. And their solution is, well, we got to blow up the moon. And and I think this is a very interesting sort of premise. And it seems like a very reasonable reaction to, hey, the moon's getting denser or whatever. And I mean, like, I don't know how reasonable blowing it up would actually be, because to my mind, it seems like, I don't know, even if you blow it up, that's still a lot of meteorites that'll come towards the Earth.
Well, yeah, that actually ends up being part of the problem later in the episode, the notion that they feel like they're at risk of the eggshell careering towards Earth and causing mayhem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's, I don't know whether they really intended to blow up the moon or if they just brought the nukes there to do something. I don't know.
Right.
I guess you'd think that, I guess with that many nukes, but also it suggested that many nukes wouldn't blow up the moon in the episode. I think. Like it's it? Well, because her intention, Captain, I forgot the name. Was it Ludwig, or was that it?
Oh, I didn't pay attention to
I
names.
don't know. But anyhow, her intention, I believe, it towards the end of the episode is to set off the bomb to kill the creature.
Oh, right.
With the presumption that wouldn't destroy the moon.
Right.
Or
well, yeah.
Maybe it would, but the mass of the dead creature would cause the moon chunks to gravitate back toward it or something.
Right.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, actually, that little, yeah, they used some logic there that didn't quite click with me, because it was, I guess, or no, what it was when they switched gears to, oh my god, this thing's alive, we gotta kill it. When they switched those gears, and that became the primary objective, the Doctor reasons against that by saying, he says something like, you'd have a floating corpse in the sky or something.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't solve the tides issue.
No, not from what I can tell.
Unless it, like, I don't know how organisms could survive in the vacuum of space anyway. But I guess it would decay, so maybe its mass would shrink or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Various aspects of the science of this just don't make any sense at all, including aspects of the very core premise. Like, for instance, creatures inside of eggs, as they are maturing within that egg, those creatures gain in mass, but the only mass they gain is what they're taking from the egg itself.
Well, yeah.
Like an egg does not increase in overall mass as the creature inside it grows.
Well, yeah. Well, and actually, I came up with my own little rationalization for that, which was that it was using some weird kind of photosynthesis.
Could be, yeah.
And that was kind of like, well, all right, maybe it's because it certainly could not gain mass out of nothing. And so I figured, well, I guess there could be cosmic radiation or the sun or something. Something is it's somehow eating something and turning it. It's eating this radiation and somehow turning it into mass.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess
that was the best I could do. Also, I mean, like, and another thing is, there is a pretty compelling argument. I mean, I know that the doctor says, like, well, I know that, whatever, newly born creatures don't usually destroy their nest. Like, well, all right, yeah, but, I mean, it could also be that, the mother laid that egg next to a food source so that it could, because, I mean, I think generally things that nest, the mother sort of brings food to them until they're ready to go out on their own. And so, if that's not the case, if this egg has just been abandoned, then it seems pretty reasonable it's got to eat something. So maybe it's going to eat the earth. I mean, like, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to think could happen. But if it is indeed gaining nourishment from, like, solar rays, then I guess it is probably fine with just that. I don't know. But I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons I was so okay with the notion that the moon is an egg is the way Capaldi said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how he said it.
Yeah. That scene was pretty great. Yeah, he does. He just has a way of selling it, to make it seem like it's a perfectly reasonable thing. Like, of course it's an egg. Like, why didn't we think of this sooner?
Actually, going back to what I said about mass, it does kind of make sense that if that creature, upon hatching, is about to lay another entire moon, then I guess it would have to increase in mass somehow.
Right. Yeah, to perpetuate itself like that.
Yeah, it's got a weird life cycle.
It does. And I mean, that could very well be just due to just living in the vacuum of space. Because, like, once again, I don't know what organisms that can just live in space would be like. I mean, I guess there's the space whale in season 5.
Which is a very similar dilemma to this one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so, we've got, which, I don't know. I forget if it's actually, I haven't rewatched The Beast Below in a very long time. I don't remember if it's actually depicted as, like, swimming through space, but that seems pretty unrealistic, but I don't know how else they would move around. Well, and that's another thing, is I know that like solar sails are a thing, and it could be that these creatures have some sort of ability to use solar winds like that and, like, sail. I want to believe that's how they do that.
Could be.
I don't know. I imagine, because there's not a lot else in space, I imagine it has to all have to do with stars and suns and things like that. Because what
probably.
else? Yeah, what else is there?
Not much.
But yeah. So yeah, they do have a very bizarre life cycle, and there's a lot of holes there. Like, we don't know how well, and I guess it must be an asexual reproduction, because there's obviously, you can't impregnate an egg, I don't think.
One presumes, but
so yeah, so it must be just this. It could just be this one creature. Like, maybe this newly born creature's going to go off and die, and then that'll be, and it won't lay any other eggs. So maybe this is it. This is like the one of its kind. I don't know. I'm speculating wildly about this.
Yeah, we really don't know anything about it.
Nope, and we probably never will.
Yeah.
It doesn't even get a name, does it?
No. It looks like some kind of dragon.
It does. So space dragon.
Space dragon's fine. That'll have to do.
Yeah. Space dragon will have to do.
Would you have killed the moon?
Would I have killed them? No, I don't think I would have.
I think I would have.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it ever do for us?
Well, I mean, it's an animal. I mean, it's just some animal, and it's probably going to eat Earth. And, I mean, it all turns out in the end, but there's no reason
That's
in
true.
the course of events to think it's going to turn out right in the end. So I'd probably err on the side of just blowing it up.
Yeah, that's a very compelling argument. I think it's pretty. I actually think it's perfectly reasonable to think like, yeah, this thing should die. I don't know if I would. Yeah, actually, I feel like there's. I would take my answer back. I think I would kill the moon because and I think the argument, obviously not like if you don't know the outcome here, that yeah, it's fine. There's I think a much better argument to killing the thing than letting it live, because I feel like based on just what you know and what you don't know, I think you're much better off. Yeah, I feel like it is a much stronger case.
Yeah, a lot of people have taken this episode as having some kind of abortion related allegory.
Yeah, well, and that there is a lot there. There's a lot. They seem to be setting that up. I mean,
they keep talking about how it's an innocent little baby. They keep talking. The doctor says, "All right, womankind, it's your time to choose." And then, of course, when Clara pushes the button, the word "aborted" flashes across the screen.
Okay,
so
that's a little on the nose.
Yeah, although that's actually very confusing because what she's doing in that moment is she's saving it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if this is an abortion analogy, it's a very strange and confusing one, and I think it almost makes more sense to try not to read it that way, because things get really weird and confusing once you start trying to read it that way.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in this. Like, I mean, usually a baby isn't being born inside the moon; it's being born inside a person's body.
Right. Generally, when a mother or a potential mother is considering an abortion, it's not because their baby has the potential to murder a planet. That's a bit extreme.
Just the moon is a general non-factor in these most abortion decisions.
Yeah,
no, I don't want to have this be the episode of our podcast that has abortion jokes in it. But I also I think the abortion allegory is. I think there's probably some kind of intentional theme there, but I don't know that it has like a pro or anti-abortion message to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is there right? The language they use in the whole. Indeed, the whole concept, screams abortion, but it's not. I don't think it clearly takes a side. Like, I don't think. I can't. If there is a message, and if there is like a pro or like a pro or anti-abortion message in there, I cannot fathom it. I do not know what it would be.
Yeah, I'm sure that this is an aspect of this episode that will be talked about for literally decades, though.
Oh yeah,
because people talk about racism in the towns of Wangchayang. Mm-hmm. Even today, it's still a hot button topic of debate among Doctor Who fans. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those episodes that some people are going to insist that, how dare you like this episode because it says this thing about abortion that I think is horrible, and no one's going to agree on what that thing it's saying is.
Right.
Which, I'm not itching to get a head start on that. There's plenty of time to have those discussions. And I don't think I'm the right person to have those discussions, frankly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just don't know.
It certainly wasn't what I was expecting from Doctor Who.
No, and that's actually part of the reason why I like this episode so much. Is that it was just a whole, just this big ball of unexpected. Like I did not think. When I heard the title "Kill the Moon," I was not thinking it would be what we got. Like and I figured I would like this episode, but I figured it would just be like a silly kind of episode with, I don't know, there'd be stakes, but whatever. It's just, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be this. I don't know.
Well, there are a couple of things about this episode that were sort of written about in interviews.
Oh yeah.
One of which was the writer Peter Harness, who's a new writer. He said in an interview that the Doctor was going to do something in this episode that was going to be very controversial. Which I mean, I had that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't imagining anything on this scale, really.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he said that Stephen Moffat told him to, quote unquote, Hinchcliffe the shit out of the first half. Where, Hinchcliffe is the producer of Doctor Who, Philip Hinchcliffe, from season, I don't know, 12 to 15, I think. Mm. Yeah, and it's so the sort of like horror monster aspect of it. And I do think that I did like that aspect of the first half of it. Mm-hmm. It's very spooky and scary and atmospheric and everything. Mm-hmm. And then it takes kind of a very sharp swerve halfway through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought I did think that was interesting, and yeah. So I did kind of have some idea of what to expect from this episode, but also it was what I expected, but not at all in the way I was expecting it, kind of.
Right, yeah. And it's funny because I had heard that Stephen Moffat had said that about one episode, but I did not know it was this episode. So that was a complete surprise to me. But not to say that I was like, oh, this is being Hinchcliffe the shit out of. It was definitely very creepy, and those bacteria things were scary looking.
It was season 14. That's when that was Hinchcliffe's last season.
Oh, okay.
He was season 12 to season 14.
Okay, so he was not around for, like, isn't the Hinchcliffe era known as like one of the best, or amongst certain circles? Certain circles
say that the Hinchcliffe era, which I guess you'd say the early Tom Baker era, is the height of the show. It's the show that has a lot of it's the era of the show that has a lot of the Tom Baker stories people regard as classic. But
so that's funny because I don't know, in my head he would have been around longer. Not that means anything, but because I'm sure a shorter tenure is, or it can have the potential of being better because you don't outstay your welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to see other episodes where writers are told to blank the shit out of it with its other notable Doctor Who production personnel. Like, I'd like to see one where someone is told to bid mead the shit out of it to like have season 18. All this talk about entropy.
Oh yeah.
Like a sequel to Warrior's Gate or something. Bring back the Tharils.
Yeah, there you go. Oh man,
lots of time lions, and space dragons. That'd be good.
Oh yeah. That's I think we need to have that happen.
I don't know. Like, how do you feel about the Doctor's actions?
Well, like, I think they're reprehensible is probably too strong a word, but I definitely don't like I definitely don't think he did or do it. Whoa, okay. Let's edit some of those negatives. I don't think he did the right thing. I don't think he was very much the Doctor in this episode. I think he strayed a little bit too far from the cruel side, I guess, of cruel and cowardly. I don't know, because I feel like he went too far, I think.
Yeah, I think I've gone back and forth about how the Doctor is portrayed, and oftentimes what I've said on this show has just been based on my mood at the time of recording, and then I've thought more, and then I've either warmed or cooled, depending. But at this point, I'm very conflicted about the Doctor as a whole, and like I wonder whether I have a feeling like they've made him a little too awful. Or not necessarily that they've made him too awful, like that they're making the show bad because of how awful he is. Because I don't think that's what's happening, but it's certainly not the Doctor as I ever wanted to see him.
Right. He's almost straying a little too far into like anti-hero territory or something.
Yeah, I think I maintain that he's worse than Hartnell at this point in terms of like being a bastard and being awful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I say all this. I definitely don't. I definitely don't think he's. Yeah, I think he's awful in this episode. But what I like about it is that Clara doesn't just like take it. Like she actually is upset with him and blows up at him, and and it's totally justified. And I really appreciated that because I feel like he kind of been like, he has kind of been like pushing her around a little bit and sort of pushing her buttons, and she's just been kind of just accepting it and still going along with him. And now he's gone too far, and I appreciate that she's upset, because she really should be. And that is what I really like, is that it's not that the show is saying this is okay. It's because the Doctor is doing, or he is being particularly awful here, but the show is kind of coming down and saying, well, and that's not okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's definitely true. And I think I love that moment with Clara. I honestly think Clara is becoming one of my favorite companions of all time.
Yeah,
because I think she's been absolutely incredible in this season, and I thought this was a great episode, and I thought that was a great scene. Mm-hmm. And I do agree, like, this, it sort of shows that the problems I have with the Doctor are things that the episode endorses. The episode is saying, hey, you should have these problems with the Doctor. Mm-hmm. You should be disagreeing with him. And so the show is kind of agreeing with me, but that doesn't mean like that's really what that doesn't mean the show is like doing the things I want it to do. I didn't want it to drag us to this place.
Right.
Like I think that if you had asked me what I wanted out of Series 8, I would have wanted something that's a little bit more, adventure-y and positive, and like the Doctor and Clara just, having adventures and having a good time. And, if the Doctor's going to be a little abrasive, I mean, the Doctor's always been a little abrasive. Even like the Tennant Doctor was sometimes abrasive. It's just always been a characteristic of the Doctor. But I don't know that I wanted Doctor Who to become this big conflict between the Doctor and the companion. Mm-hmm. And I maybe it's going somewhere interesting, and that's fine, but it's just, I don't know that that's what I want from the show, for it to go to those places. I want it to go different places, and I'm hoping that it's going to go to those places in the finale. Everything's going to get wrapped up, and then things are going to be a little different next year. That's what I would like, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think that if this just kind of, I don't know, blows over, then I won't be happy with it, and I won't, like, if they just kind of, if Clara just goes, if, I don't know, she calms down or whatever, and then, I don't know, whatever it is, like, if she just decides to get over it or whatever, and then travel with the Doctor again, yeah, I won't be happy with that. I want to, and yeah, I understand, like, yeah, this is kind of a weird thing to do, but yeah, what I'm hoping is that this is supposed to help build the 12th Doctor's character, and that he's gonna really reflect on what he's doing, and he's gonna make a 180 or something and be nicer, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's, to an extent, I guess maybe the idea is that we're gonna head and do with the 12th Doctor what they originally wanted to do with the 6th Doctor, which is, make him nicer over time.
Yeah, and if that's the point, then I'm looking forward to getting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
definitely.
I kind of my feeling, much like the way I feel about this episode, I've kind of decided to apply that to the whole season. Like, well, let's not make it a question of whether or not I like it. Let's make it a question of whether or not it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. There you
because
go.
This is one of the most interesting. I think this is the most interesting season of Doctor Who, that I've ever seen. It's every single episode, even the ones that you think are going to be like light, fluffy adventures, like Robot of Sherwood and Time Heist, end up having this sort of difficult thing about them. Like, it's hard to grapple with them, where like it's just it's challenging in a way, but I definitely appreciate and admire that. I just don't know that I like it all that much, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the fact that Doctor Who is going to be a show that I appreciate and admire and feel kind of like it's engaging my brain, rather than just being, kind of more of what I was expecting.
Yeah, right. It's sort of transcending just being entertainment and sort of challenging the viewer.
Yeah, and there is, more than enough entertainment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But because there are parts of this episode that are funny, and there are parts that are thrilling, and there are parts that are, awesomely spooky. But yeah,
like I liked one of the first scenes where they've materialized into like the cargo bay or whatever with all the nukes, and then they land, and the Doctor is sort of jumping around while giving a speech on why they don't want to kill him. And I liked that. And it also just to shoot on a tangent, it's implied here that it's implied that the Doctor doesn't know if he has a regeneration limit anymore.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, because he sure seems to think he can regenerate at least one more time.
Yeah.
but he's not sure whether he won't go on regenerating forever and ever, which is fine.
Yeah.
I kind of hope that they just run with that. Just there's no more limit.
Right.
If there's going to be a threat to the Doctor's existence, it shouldn't be like a limit-based threat. It should be, something that could wipe him out.
Yeah.
Because we know there are circumstances under which he won't regenerate, so you don't need that limit to make him feel mortal.
Yeah. And yeah, it seems silly in this day and age to keep the limit around. Like it just, yeah, it's a dumb idea to just like sort of kick it down the road for later on. What's the point of that?
But yeah, but overall, my general feeling about Capaldi as of this moment is that he feels very far away from something that I would consider my Doctor, and it makes me more excited about like new things coming out from Big Finish, because I feel like there's a new Eighth Doctor box set that comes out next month that I've been looking forward to for a long while, and now I'm looking forward to it even more because that's a Doctor that just feels more like my Doctor.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's going to give me some things that I'm not getting out of this series that I kind of want, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great that you got that stuff out there for people like me.
Well, yeah. And Big Finish is kind of really cool that way, is, you want more Doctor Who, here, there's, tons of stuff.
Yeah, and I know there have been a lot of Big Finish fans I know who are fans of the classic series, but for whatever reason could just never get into the new series. So they've felt like, all right, this is more of the stuff for me. And I kind of relate to that now. I mean, I'm still really like invested in the current TV series, and I'm still like fascinated and eager to find out what's going to happen next. But yeah, I do kind of feel like, all right, this is something that's going to reach me on my level with regard to the new Doctor Who releases from Big Finish.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing is when the classic series was on, I guess Doctor Who had or rather, I'm thinking in terms of like the 80s when things were kind of winding down a bit. It's and maybe I'm even just thinking in terms of like the United States, but it seemed like being a fan of Doctor Who was an uncommon thing, I guess, and it certainly wasn't like super popular as it is now. And so in a sense, Big Finish has kind of filled that capacity of an aspect of Doctor Who anyway that's not super popular and is not subject to the same crazed fandom that the new series has.
It just is a very small crazed fandom.
Right. A small, devoted, crazed fandom.
Yeah, they can get quite crazed.
I don't doubt it. I do not doubt that. But yeah. So it's nice that there are other avenues to get your Doctor fix if you're not thrilled with the current incarnation, or if just the current incarnation is not quite filling that role. And in a sense that sort of gives them license to do different things with the TV Doctor, because you've always got the older Doctors who are constantly recording audio.
Constantly.
Yes, they never stop.
Several releases per month.
Yes. Yeah, right now I don't know, like, I mean, Capaldi does seem like a really good actor, and like, his portrayal of the Doctor is super interesting. But yeah, I don't know where I would rank him. I don't know where I would rank the 12th Doctor in terms of like my favorite Doctors. I mean, like this season so far for me has given me so much. I don't know. I've been so enthralled by this season, but I don't know. But I feel like part of the allure is that it's something I've never seen before, and that it's the Doctor doing things that I never thought I'd see a Doctor do.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell if it's like, I don't know where he's gonna place in my ranking of favorite Doctors. Like I don't know. Like I certainly would not recommend this season to anybody who wanted to understand who the Doctor was. I definitely thought that in Deep Breath, because it didn't seem like Capaldi was being very much like the Doctor. But I mean, the whole season he's kind of been a little bit off.
That's true. In terms of ranking Capaldi, in terms of the Doctors I like most, I honestly think I put him dead last.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't think he's given me as much of a chance to like him as the other Doctors have had. And I mean, the other Doctors have there are things about them that I've liked, and there are things about them that I've disliked, and so they've all got lots of tick marks on either side of the balance sheet. I don't think that's how balance sheets work, but yeah. But I'm taking an accounting class, so.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
there you go.
But Capaldi still seems like he's still this. I still can't quite get a fix on how I'm eventually going to end up feeling about him, which has a lot. There's something to be said for that, but I honestly think the doctors I'd probably put lowest down on my list would probably be, I don't know, maybe Hartnell would be pretty low down there, but I still like him a lot, and I think I like him more than Capaldi. So
yeah. And that's pretty reasonable. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is, I would like to know, once we're several doctors past Capaldi, like once we're on the 15th Doctor or whatever, I'd like to look back and, or I just wonder how I'm going to look back at season 8, after, or series 8, after it's all said and done, and, what am I going to think when I don't know, when the 14th Doctor is my new favorite Doctor, and I'm not thrilled about the 15th. I'm going to look back to the 12th, and what am I going to think? And it's I just don't know right now because we're in the midst of it. And
yeah.
I just don't know how it's gonna. I just don't know. Like right now, I'm super interested in this series, and it's highly entertaining to me. But I just don't know.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to call this series, the best series so far, but I'm just so conflicted about it. Like I can't say positive or negative things about it. It's just too interesting. Like I don't know. It's just so strange. And I think we noted in our discussions of series 3 of Sherlock how Moffat had really evolved that character. I feel like to make him seem less like a complete asshole.
Right.
And so I know he can do that.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of interested to wait and see, especially with next week's episode, because it seems to be companion light.
Right.
Or perhaps companion not at all.
Yeah. So
what's that even going to be like? Because I feel like Clara's the protagonist of this show.
Right, that's the thing, yeah. That's so funny, because it really has sort of flipped, where, like, I guess we don't have too many examples, but I feel like in the past I was always much more looking forward to the companion light episodes as opposed to the Doctor light episodes. But in this case, I feel like, I don't know, this is weird that we won't have, Clara, who's been such an excellent foil for Capaldi, and
Yeah, I believe the next 2 episodes, which are Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline, were both written by what's his name, Jamie Matheson, I think, and so he's a new writer. They're both written by the same writer, and they were like double booked, so they were filming kind of overlapping.
Yeah.
So one of the Mummy one is Companion Light, and Flatline is apparently Doctor Light.
Okay.
From what I understand, which is kind of how they did it in Series 4.
Yeah.
With Midnight and Turn Left.
Yeah.
So maybe seeing these 2 characters function apart is gonna make some really interesting material.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. How that turns out. Yeah, and I guess I'm far more interested in Flatline than I am with Mummy and on the Orient Express. But yeah, like that. Yeah, that's the point I was driving at. Is I feel like this time I'm much more interested to see what Clara goes and does as opposed to what the Doctor goes and does.
What did you think of Courtney?
I could take her or leave her.
I actually kind of liked her. Like I thought this was much more successful than Nightmare in Silver in the attempt to do Kid Companion.
That's very true. That is definitely true. But yeah, I don't know.
Apparently, she becomes president.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, and
I'm guessing, like, I presumably the Doctor knew that all along. Like, well, so I thought, like, the notion is he starts off telling her she's not special and everything. Yeah. And I thought of the president thing as being like the punchline of that.
Yeah.
Like that he's saying that knowing all along that she becomes president of what? I don't know what she's the president. Did she say president? Did he say president of the United States? Is that what he said?
He definitely said president of the United States. Yeah, I don't know how. I'm guessing at some point America must abolish the whole "you have to be born here" thing. I don't know, maybe with like President Schwarzenegger in like 2024 or whatever.
Yeah, but I did I also kind of wondered whether she's president during Kill the Moon.
Well, yeah, and that's or at least that's what I read into it, because they say, when the Doctor says like, "Oh, don't bother the president, he's got enough on his plate already," or whatever, and then they're like, or then I guess the astronaut corrects him saying like she, and I thought that was I mean, obviously it could be any woman, But I don't know. I just thought that would. It seems like they were hinting that. I don't know. Or at least I read it as a hint. But.
Yeah, I think that's it may have been what they meant to imply. I don't know. It's interesting though. You'd think that I don't know if Courtney's name ever got said, because if so, then you'd think like Ludwig would have picked up on that.
Oh, that's true.
But maybe it just never came up.
Yeah. Well, and that's there's a point there, because she does know right off the bat that they're time travelers, so it wouldn't be that out of the realm of possibilities that, hey, is this the future president? So yeah. I don't know. I guess there's quite a bit of, well, right, because if you're 15 in 2014, 2049, you're going to be 50. That's pretty young for a president, isn't it? Or maybe not.
I don't know.
I mean, I know that. How old was Kennedy? Because he was the youngest, possibly still is or was, or
I don't know. I don't know from presidents.
Yeah, I don't either. For the longest time, I didn't know how many presidents there'd been, and I recently forced myself to memorize that. He died at age 46, and I know he was president when that happened, so I guess he was elected. He was sworn in 61, so he died 2 years later, so he would have been elected when he was 44? Is that right?
Yeah, I'll just let you do all the math.
I can subtract 2 from numbers.
Can you?
Oh, I really don't know. Anyway, so our baseline is 44 years old for youngest president, or I'm assuming.
So
that's pretty young. But yeah. I guess she could do it. But how did she go from being a citizen of the UK?
Well, we don't know that.
That's true. She could. She could. I don't know. She could be the child of, like. No, we know that. Well, we've met her parents. They both speak with British accents. I was gonna say they could be like.
But she could have been born in the United States for whatever reason.
Oh yeah. That's true. Because you're natural. What is it? Naturalized or natural? I don't know. Whatever. Yes, you're a citizen if you're born on U.S. soil. Or she could have just been, or her parents could have just been. Or her mother could have just been taking a trip to, like, the embassy or something and gave birth right there. I think that doesn't that count?
I don't know. I don't know if it's ever come up in presidential elections. Has it?
No, I don't know. Well, right. Well, I don't know though, because apparently Obama was born in Kenya, so who knows?
It's true. It's definitely true. It's known. It's a fact.
It is a known fact to many conservative bloggers.
Yeah. Sure is. The future history in this episode does not match perfectly with other future histories in other episodes.
Oh, it doesn't?
Well, I mean, no, and Doctor Who never has. I almost feel silly bringing it up.
Okay.
Because I know that what we're going to do is I'm going to point out the contradiction, and then we're both going to be like, well, that doesn't matter. And then we'll both kind of laugh it off. But anyhow... Adelaide Brooke from the waters of Mars has first landed on Mars, I think, by 2040 or 2041.
Huh.
So yeah, that doesn't match, but
right.
Okay. Oh well.
Right. Unless it was like this really brief fad, like bell-bottom jeans or something, that they decided they were going to start going to space again in, like, the early 40s, and then they're like, you know what? No, wait, this is a bad idea. And then decommissioned everything they'd made and just forgot about Buoy Base 1. I don't know.
Yeah. The 10th planet has Earth being invaded by Cybermen in the 80s, so...
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Kill the Moon's been compared a lot to other episodes.
Really?
I mean, a lot of people comparing it to Waters of Mars, comparing it to The Beast Below, comparing it to... I mean, I would compare it... What I'd compare it to is... Have you ever seen Ghostlight?
I don't know.
That's the 7th Doctor one.
I know I've seen some 7th Doctor, and I don't remember if Ghostlight's one of them. I vaguely remember... Maybe. I'll say maybe. I don't really remember it, though, so it's... ostensibly, it's like I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there is a scene between the Seventh Doctor and Ace that is somewhat similar to the scene between the Doctor and Clara at the end of this episode, but way toned down.
Really?
Yeah, where, like, basically she kind of gets mad at him and is like, I don't, like, he puts her into a situation for her own good without telling her everything that's going on, and then when she finds out about it, she gets mad about it, and there's something of a fight, but it's not nowhere near as explosive as this.
That sounds about right for classic Who, though. You know, that sounds just even that there would be like a fight like that between the Doctor and companion. That's for classic Doctor Who. That's really saying something. Like, because I can't think of, like, I mean, there's kind of like superficial stuff, but never like, hey, why did you do that to me? Like,
well, you know, Earthshock has that. The Doctor and Adric get into a bit of an argument regarding, like, he feels like he's being treated like a kid, and he ultimately decides he wants to go back to his home world, even though it's in E-space. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's not that much of it because things tend to be a little more on an even keel in the classic series. But it does happen from time to time that, you know, tensions start to run high, but it's never been anywhere near as close to how it is in this episode. I think this episode is sort of the extreme of that.
Yeah. And
I probably wouldn't want to see it get much more intense than this.
No. Because, yeah, it would really have to be really kind of a lot. I mean, yeah, I can't. I can't imagine it making for just an enjoyable thing to sit there. Like, if it were any more severe, it would just be uncomfortable, I think. Yeah, so this is a pretty extreme episode, and, you know, just remarkable in its own right for that.
Definitely.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's just been a really fascinating season so far. I thought it was hilarious how what was the astronaut's name? I shouldn't learn her name.
I think it was Ludwig.
Ludwig?
I think so.
Sounds about right. I love how Ludwig remarks that that her gran used to put things on Tumblr.
Oh yeah, the Tumblr thing is great.
I loved that. I thought that was just perfect. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, how old would her gran be? Because, you know, she seems kind of like, she seems like she might be in her 40s or so. So I'm trying to figure out generations and how that works. I don't know. But I don't know, that's a minor thing. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. Also, there's a little bit where we sort of learn where the Doctor brings up the whole stick the DVDs in the console.
Yeah.
And what he says is that you got to hang on to the console, otherwise the TARDIS will leave you behind, which would explain why in Blink Sally Sparrow and what's his name? I forget.
Larry.
Sally and Larry are left behind when they stick the DVD in because they didn't hold on to the console; they were holding on to each other.
Yeah, that was a mystery I was not wondering about.
Right.
But I like that it's sort of been, they didn't go out of their way to call attention. He didn't say, you know, this one time. He doesn't go into any of that. He just tells her, and then that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, and I liked that. And, you know, it would have been really annoying to me if he had just said, "Hey, stick the DVD in the console and it'll take you right to me," because I would have been thinking about how that worked in Blink and how it worked differently here. But now that they're saying, "Oh, well, you got to hold on to the console, of course."
Yeah. And I wonder, so does he just have a shelf of Sally Sparrow's DVDs?
Presumably. I mean, you know, I maybe he wanted to keep copies for himself. You know, I don't know.
Because I guess if that's the case, then this kind of retcons what the DVDs were doing in Blink. Because I thought in Blink they had been pre-programmed with the coordinates.
Oh.
Whereas this suggests that if it's the same DVD, this suggests that these are DVDs that home in on the Doctor.
Yes.
Which doesn't contradict Blink, I don't think.
No.
I had just assumed based on Blink that it was based on the Doctor's known coordinates.
Right. Right, and that sort of adds like an element of complexity to it, I guess, is because the Doctor has to also calculate like where, or like he has to calculate these coordinates and, you know, have the TARDIS land there. So there's more it's a more complex system than just saying, oh, these DVDs will just hone in on me wherever I am.
But he does just have a shelf full of Sally Sparrow's DVDs, the same DVDs she has.
Yeah, that stands to reason. So I guess that also means, because I had kind of a...
That means he's only got 17 DVDs.
That's right. Yeah. Only 17 of them. But plenty of books.
True.
So maybe he's just more of a reader than a watcher. I don't know. But yeah, well, and I had a bit of headcanon, which I guess is also contradicted, which was that once one of those DVDs were used, none of them could be used again, because otherwise there'd be a ton of DVDs floating around that would just take the TARDIS to 1969, and anyone could come in and just stick one in the console and be transported back to 1969. So I guess all those DVDs are still active, and I guess the only thing stopping a bunch of people from going back to 1969 is just the fact that the Doctor always locks the TARDIS, or generally always locks the TARDIS.
Yeah, so what that would seem to mean is, like, for instance, in Parting of the Ways, the Doctor sends Rose away in the TARDIS, and Rose ends up having to reactivate the TARDIS by opening it up.
Right.
But had she known what DVDs to use, and obviously the Doctor didn't even know at that period, so there's no way she could have known. But if she had happened to put one of those 17 DVDs into the console, that would have solved the problem.
Right. If she had just happened to want to watch a movie and she wasn't satisfied watching it in her apartment, she could have gone to the TARDIS and watched it in there, and suddenly she'd be transported to 1969, which wouldn't help. But
well, no, now we know she'd be transported to wherever the Doctor is. Or, so, although
right.
whether it's where the Doctor is at that moment, or it's probably relative to the, like, synced up with the Doctor. So probably the Doctor on that space station, which means that she would have gone there without the
That's right.
the heart of the TARDIS in her, and everyone would have died.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's a good thing that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's a good thing that Russell T Davies didn't write that finale based on the notion that 2 seasons later, Stephen Moffat would write a one-off episode in which he introduces the idea that there are DVDs that'll transport the TARDIS to anywhere the Doctor is easily.
And then 5 seasons later, it would be suggested that these can be used at any time.
Right. Thank God RTD didn't do that, because that would really complicate things.
Yeah, then everyone would have died.
That's right. That too. Commentary on abortion aside, do you think that this episode comes down as an indictment against democracy?
I do think it comes down... I mean, I don't think it comes down as... The thing is, it doesn't, like... Whether democracy is a good political system or not is one question. And whether a democratic vote will always produce a choice that is morally right is another.
Yes, that's true.
Like if... I think moral choices need to be judged on their own terms, not on how many people voted for them.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean... Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing is, I don't know if this is just an America-centric view, but, like, in my head, I think, like, whenever there's a dilemma, I always think, like, oh, well, these characters are going to have to vote on it. Like, like, all these, like, in the Dark Knight, where, at the end, where, they're on the barges or whatever, and, they have the trigger to blow up the other boat, and, everyone votes on it. Like, that just seems like a logical thing to me. Like, oh, of course, everyone on that boat, regardless of their prejudices and where their background, they should all have an opinion, informed or not, and be allowed to vote in this matter. And that is a moral dilemma that is decided on with a vote, and actually ends the same way, where they both reject the popular opinion.
And the I guess what the notion, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have, like, a transcript in front of me or anything, but in this episode, the Doctor basically says, well, I knew humanity would make the right decision.
Yeah,
and
right.
Clara says, humanity decided one thing, and I overrode them. I did the other thing. And then his response to that is something along the lines of, well, there you go. Which is, there's just so much moral complexity packed into that very short dialogue exchange.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's like, I honestly don't know. Like, I mean, you could write a paper on that.
Yeah. I guess it does definitely come down to say, like, well, democracy is not always the way to go for moral decisions. Yeah, and that just seems like a weird thing, actually, to thinking about it, and I guess I've never really thought about it, and maybe this is also due to the fact that, I grew up in America, but yeah, it seems like there are some times where it's probably just downright inappropriate to vote on things.
Probably, or there are probably times when it's completely appropriate to just ignore the popular vote and
right,
and do what you think is right.
Yeah,
and I mean, pretty much every single moral aspect of that whole decision is complicated when you take into account the fact that it's really not Clara's moon.
That's true.
She's not from the present day. I mean,
well, yeah.
I guess it's kind of her moon, but she is an interloper here. She's coming in from the outside.
Right. And Ludwig has to kind of like step in and say like, well, hey, you might have grandchildren down there. Like as if Clara wouldn't have even thought of that, because she is not from this time. So, the problems there, they're not impacting her, and and who knows, depending on how long Clara lives, they may never impact her. She may never know that they're happening or whatever. And so yeah, it does seem like it's weird that it's weird that she would be given that choice, because it doesn't impact her at all.
And I think that's part of the reason she's so upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she is really almost as impartial as the Doctor is, and the Doctor throws his hands up and says, well, it's your moon, you got to decide, and yeah, it's really not.
And of course, she throws it back at him at the end of the episode and says, you know what, it is your moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whose moon is it anyway?
I think it's America's, because we planted a flag there.
Oh, okay, well then. And anyway, aren't these supposed to be American astronauts? Why are they British? Because isn't it an American shuttle that they take?
Right.
Do they just, I don't know, I'm not clear on that, but...
Yeah, well, it's an American shuttle. I'm guessing, I don't know, I guess there's a British space program. Is there an actual British space program right now?
I don't think so. I don't know.
They're
not doing much.
Yeah, I mean, I can't keep track of these things. I think China's shooting stuff into space, aren't they? I know Russia still is. I know they're still on that.
Yeah, America's not doing all that much right now.
No, we're not.
And that's kind of the point of the episode, I think. Or not the point of the episode, but it's discussed in the episode. The fact that the space programs of the world are not, they don't today have the ambition they had 50 years ago.
Right.
And the notion of this episode is that they will continue to sort of decline and be less and less of a cultural touchstone until, everyone looks up and sees a space chicken dragon flying out of the moon, and suddenly is like, yeah, we got to get out there.
Right, all the Daleks flying around in 2010 or whenever that was, that didn't do it. Was it? No, it would have been 2008 maybe. I don't know. Anyway, when the Earth gets moved halfway across the galaxy.
Yeah, I think that was 2009.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, right, because they were a year ahead of when it aired.
I believe so.
Yes. So yeah. So those things didn't do it, or well, they supposedly did in Waters of Mars, but not in this universe.
No.
So they needed a space chicken dragon.
Yeah, and one thing that this episode suggests is that like the only reason the only thing that could make the human race survive is to spread out into space, which is something I actually happen to agree with.
Well, yeah.
And no, it doesn't seem to be a very high priority for anyone on this planet at this time.
Well, right,
which is kind of frustrating to me. I think Elon Musk is now talking about how much he wants us to go to Mars.
Yeah,
but it's not really like a high priority for anyone. So I'm hoping that someone's going to watch this episode and realize, oh yeah, we got to get out there. Got to see those dragon things.
Yeah. Well, and there's that Carl Sagan quote that's kind of long about the pale blue dot. And if I try to quote it, I'm just going to do a terrible job. But I mean, part of it is that he makes a big point of like, well, we're looking at this little pixel that represents the only home we've ever known. And we got, and basically, I feel like what he's trying to say is like we need to take care of it and we need to be nicer to each other, because this is the only home we've ever had. And I mean, that's certainly the takeaway. But I also that quote also for me stirs something inside me to say, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay that this is our only home. I want a second home. I want a house in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
I want like
humanity's house in the Hamptons.
Yes, exactly. So I want that, and so I think yeah, if it takes looking up at the moon and seeing this to do that, then yeah, all right, I'm fine.
Well, let's do it.
let's get on that. Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I think so too.